This episode of Sports Addict Live brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. With over 40 years experience, First Round Collectibles offers the widest variety of quality Beckett-graded sports cards anywhere. Representing 10 major sports, First Round has all your favorite players from all your favorite teams at great prices. We are proud of our knowledgeable staff and top-rated customer service, and our reviews vouch for our integrity. Visit us today at firstroundcollectibles.com and find your heroes. That's the number one, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original.
And welcome. Sports Addict Live. It's been a minute. Glad to be back. Been a couple weeks. Was super duper sick a couple weeks ago, and then my family was sick. So had to do what I had to do, but I am back. Lots and lots to catch up on since I've been gone. Disappointing. A couple things. Number one, disappointing. While I was gone, the Cowboys lost to the 49ers. And I couldn't talk about how much I loved that, how happy that made me. I couldn't talk about it. But then the Eagles also lost to the Jets, so I didn't have to talk about how much I hated that. The NHL started a couple weeks ago. Baseball playoffs have been flying. The last I talked about that was the wild card preview. So lots and lots and lots to get into on the baseball front. Of course, we are going into week 8 in the NFL. Basketball starts as I'm like an hour away from when I'm recording this now. Tom Brown will be with me later this evening. We're going to record a pod and break down the NBA season. Already drama in Lakerland with the performance that Davis put up last night. 0 points in the second half. And I think like this just I don't know, like there was already a narrative about Davis. I understand the talent, and I understand he can be a great player. But what we've seen the last couple of years is what we've seen. Like it's not hating on the guy. It's just you talk about what you see. And all the smack talk and trash talk that was happening over the summer, and the Lakers just talking this huge game, getting all worked up over the Jokic is the Lakers' daddy, and which they never said, by the way. And I'm sure Tom Brown and I will get into this on the next pod. I just, I mean, Mike Malone had a lot to say when that series was over, and I think rightfully so. They swept the Lakers going into the playoffs. That's the Denver Nuggets now I'm speaking about. Going into the finals, they swept the Lakers, and instantly, as LeBron does, he talks about, not sure if he's going to return, which everybody knew he was going to return. Everybody knew he was coming back. There was not one person on this earth who actually thought, unless you just want to be a contrarian, nobody thought that this guy was retiring. And he essentially stole the thunder right from underneath the Nuggets, which and this is a whole other conversation. For me, if we're talking GOAT status, it's this kind of stuff that LeBron does that just drives me insane. And it makes it difficult for me to take him seriously. Obviously, as a player, he's a great player. And one of if it's not Jordan, it's LeBron. We all understand that. But anyway, I digress. Already drama in Lakerland. A fun night of basketball to get us started last night. And tonight, as you listen to this, the night's already over. Tons and tons of basketball on this Wednesday night. The NHL is in full swing. I got some thoughts and opinions on that we will talk about, and will be more NHL heavy as the weeks go on. But week 7 in the NFL wrapped up on Monday night with the 49ers losing to the Vikings. Since then, we have found out that Brock Purdy is in concussion protocol. And I'll talk a bit more about the 49ers in a little bit. Number one thing from Sunday that I wanted to talk about: Baltimore beating the Lions 38-6. And I really do believe, I'm just pulling up the schedule here for the NFL. I really do believe that this game the other night, or on Sunday, was very important for both Baltimore and Detroit. Number one, for Baltimore, we've been talking a lot during the offseason about Baltimore, about this offense and the new coordinator and bringing in receivers to complement Mark Andrews. You have Odell, you have Zay Flowers, and trying to get the running game besides Lamar established. And this is a team now at 5-2. Those two losses were two of the more frustrating losses of any losses so far this year. And they came out on Sunday, everybody, including myself, super, super excited for this game. I thought the Lions coming into the week 5-1, I thought it was going to be an extremely competitive game. Both defenses playing well. This should be a very good game, and it wasn't competitive from the jump. And you knew something was coming when Baltimore took the ball at the kickoff, which never happens these days. I mean, that used to be something in Madden that we would do when we were kids, but in the real life NFL, that doesn't happen very often anymore. And right from the jump, they just knew, we know how to dominate this Lions defense, and they did it. And by halfway through, for me, by the time the game was 14-0, you just knew it was done. You just knew that the Lions were going to have no answer, and you knew that Lamar was just going to do whatever he wanted, which he did. I thought Beckham looked good. Zay Flowers continues to look good. Mark Andrews continues to look good. And, I think Baltimore's defense, especially with all the people they've lost, all the injuries, I think Baltimore's defense has played very well this year. They played very well on Sunday. I also just think the Lions didn't have it. I don't know if the Ravens, defense played a little bit worse. I don't know. I just think the Lions didn't have it. So why I think it was important for Baltimore was just to have this basically perfect game where everything's finally coming together. You've had frustrating wins. You've had frustrating losses. You've had wins where it just doesn't feel right, doesn't seem to be clicking. but then you've had losses where you should have won both those games. So for them to come out the way they did against a very good 5-1 Lions team and just dismantle them from the jump was very, very important for the Ravens. And the reason why I think it was really important for the Lions was the Lions 5-1, terrific finish to their season last year. Huge debate on sports radio and podcasts all summer was, are the Lions for real? Are the Lions not for real? You kind of didn't have anybody going right down the middle. You basically just had yes or no. I thought they were for real. I didn't think 5-1 to start for real. I think what's beautiful about this loss for the Lions, I think that they will be fine. I think that they will continue their great season. I also think they needed a bit of a slap in the mouth, and I think they needed to be reminded that they are not the Chiefs, they are not the Eagles, they are not the Niners, that they still have a long way to go. And that's no disrespect to the Lions. They've had a phenomenal season. This is the best that Goff has maybe ever looked. But they're not that tier yet. That they do still have a long way to go. And I think that, teams need to be reminded that. I think the 49ers the last 2 weeks, 2 losses in a row, losing to the Browns. The Browns defense is, we've been saying top 5 defense. That's a top 3. They're up there for the best defense in the league for sure. That Browns defense is a Super Bowl contender. And the Browns could be a Super Bowl contender if their quarterback situation wasn't a disaster. But I digress. And then the Vikings, though, you got to win that game. But when you're a team like the 49ers, where literally 2 weeks ago, where was the weakness in this team? Maybe the run defense, maybe. But there was no weakness in this team. This team was going to go 16-0, 17-0. My beloved Eagles losing in horrendous fashion to the Jets, where you literally lost the game. The Jets didn't beat you. You gave them the game. You needed a game like that. The Eagles at the time were 5-0. They were not playing perfect football by any stretch of the imagination. You can, probably say between them, Chiefs, Niners, Lions, Baltimore, the Eagles were playing probably the worst football, especially offensively, yet they were still winning games. They needed that slap in the mouth. So for the Lions, I think it was an extremely important game, and I'm not concerned about them at all moving forward. The Browns, 39, Colts, 38, and probably the most entertaining game of the year. Just back and forth. And, of course, ending on a Kareem Hunt 1-yard TD. Somewhat controversial TD, but nevertheless, they get the victory, and they improve to 4-2. And, like I was just saying, this defense is an incredible defense, and even they did not play great defensively against the Colts. They just didn't. Myles Garrett won that game. He put points on the board, took points off the board. He was outstanding. One of the best games that I've probably seen him play. Maybe the best. Incredible. He single-handedly won that game for them. But those games happen. Defensively, I'm not concerned about the Browns for 1 second. we all know what's concerning about the Browns right now. And it's this Deshaun Watson situation. I just don't understand. Like, he's cleared by doctors. Coach says he's not going to play. Cleared by doctors. Plays. Gets hurt. Cleared by doctors again. Then coach doesn't say he's going to play. This is a disaster in every sense. I think the fact that they made this panic move and gave him all this money clearly makes this way worse, right? If you're dealing with a guy who is on a short-term deal getting 60% guaranteed, it's not, I mean, it still sucks, but this just makes the taste worse. Not to mention the terms of which he was suspended, like the reasons why he was suspended. You gave him all this money guaranteed, knowing he wasn't going to play because of a suspension, because he's a dick, quite frankly, allegedly, I suppose. And now he's hurt, not hurt, cleared, blah, blah, blah. Something is not being said. Something's not being told to us. I think, personally, if I was on the Cleveland Browns, I would not want anything to do with this guy to begin with. Like, yeah, like if you win, I guess winning cures all, I suppose. But he's not doing that either. Like, he sucked. Like, it's not like he's been this phenomenal player since he came back. You can give him last year. I personally, from the jump, I thought that to expect him to be good this year was a stretch. He was gone for a long time. And to be back for, a few games last year, to be back. But he needs a full season. He needs a full season to get right, to get his rhythm. If he wasn't good until week 11, week 12, for me, I get it. If you're paying that much money, though, you don't get it. Same thing with Russell Wilson. You're getting paid all this money, and we have, like 2 wins? Now, the luxury for the Browns is they're winning games. Their defense is phenomenal. P.J. Walker, not bad. Not bad. I mean, they're winning. You got Kareem Hunt in there. You got Ford back there. They got so much talent on this team. And my opinion is it's being wasted by this Watson character. You have a Super Bowl winning team. And I know Chubb's gone. But even still, this team can do some serious damage. And Watson is holding them back. Will continue to hold them back. And the only reason that he's going to go back in there is because of the money. Who's playing better right now? Watson, Walker. It's Walker. Upside, okay. Watson, sure. But, I mean, who knows how much this team believes in him? Who knows? It's a mess all the way around. Still 4-2, though. That's the thing. Like, you're still winning games. Pats 29, Bills 25. And this is one that I don't know. I think for me, the Bills offensively, if you've been listening to this podcast since the beginning, I have a hard time believing in the Bills. I always have. Josh Allen is an incredible talent, an incredibly fun talent to watch. He comes with his negatives. We've said this 1,000 times. Other shows have said this 1,000 times. What you love about Josh Allen is what you can't stand about Josh Allen. You're going to get what you get with him. You're going to get the incredible plays. You're going to get the rushing yards, the passing yards, the touchdowns, and you're going to get the picks, and you're going to get the fumbles. It's just the way that it goes. And while you need him to get 30 plus points, this is a Pats defense that is supposed to be good, even though the Pats have been a disaster so far this year. But it's more now, and I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive on the AFC standings here in a minute. It's more now that I think the injuries on this Bills defense, we are to the point of no return. This Bills defense is not what we know it as. It's just not. Too many injuries to be even remotely close to what they were and to what they have been. And I think it's the downfall of their season. Now, as much as I don't believe in Josh Allen as a Super Bowl winner yet, I didn't pick the Bills at the beginning of the season. I didn't pick them to win the division. I thought they would get the 6th, 7th wild card spot. But now it's the defense. Like, that's what it is now. Like, you can't expect to beat the teams that you are going to be playing. You got the Buccaneers this week, and that needs to be one that you have. But then you get the Bengals, and then you get the Broncos. So the Bengals, tough. Broncos, not so tough. You got the Eagles in there. I believe they play the Chiefs as well. Like, they have some really, really tough games coming up. And I don't think this defense can hold up. Now, let's look at these standings. Baltimore, Jacksonville, Miami, Kansas City all lead their divisions currently. Baltimore, Jacksonville, Miami all 5-2. Kansas City 6-1. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, both at 4-2 in that wild card spot, and Buffalo is 4-3, currently in the last wild card spot. I know Week 7 just finished. I know it, but we're not really early anymore. Like, we're almost halfway home now. And you got Cincinnati's coming. I thought that they were done, but hey, Cincinnati's been winning games 3-3. The Texans, who have a relatively easy schedule down the stretch, they have the Panthers, Bucks, Bengals, Cardinals, Jaguars, Broncos, Jets, Titans, Browns, Titans, Colts. Like, I think this team can go 11-6. I really do. Like, you consider Panthers win, Bucks win, Bengals lost, Cardinals win, Jaguars, I think win, but Jacksonville's playing pretty well right now. Broncos win, Jets, Titans are probably split with the Titans. This team could go 11-6. And then you have the Jets, who are 3-3. Their defense is keeping them alive. I think, like, we could seriously be talking about the Bills missing the playoffs. It was plus money before the season started. I should have taken it. It's actually no. Like, it's not that I should have taken it. I wanted to take it because I didn't believe that this team could win. However, it's the defense now that is the most concerning, just because there's so many people hurt. And we could legitimately, by Christmas time, be talking about Buffalo missing the playoffs. And it's not a long shot. We talked about it just now, right? Cincinnati is 3-3, Texans 3-3. Texans have an incredibly simple schedule. The Jets 3-3. I believe a little less in the Jets with who they have at the helm at quarterback. But that Jets defense, pretty good. Pretty good. And they already beat the Bills once. Could probably do it again. It's concerning. It's concerning, for sure. All right. Chargers 17, Chiefs 31. I don't have too much to say on this game other than I understand all the blame going towards Coach Staley. And I agree. I never liked this guy. Drives me nuts. Now, he's blamed a lot for the fourth down calls. However, every coach in the league now is statistically, analyzing the odds of fourth down calls and blah, blah, blah. And people are going for it on fourth down more than ever before. I don't like him. I thought he should have been fired last year. I think when you are winning 27-0 in a playoff game, you've already had the problems you've had already. It's not like the problems just all of a sudden came up during the playoff game. They've been having these problems the whole way through, and then you lose a game where you led 27-0 in the playoffs. I don't like Staley. I never want to see a guy get fired, but it would make sense. Some of the blame has to go on Herbert now. We've been talking about all year in the media, talking about how, statistically, Herbert's been great and the offense has been great and blah, 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 blah. That Cowboys loss a couple weeks ago, you had plenty opportunities to win that game. The game against the Chiefs, you had plenty opportunities to at least lose by less than, 14 points? Herbert needs to share some of this blame. This isn't all Staley. But also, the Chargers, they're just going to charge her. Always. And it's hard to believe in this team. It's hard to buy into this team. They are 2-4, and we just went through it, right? Cincinnati, Texans, Jets, all 3-3. Oh, we can add Colts and Vegas at 3-4. Vegas is the most fraudulent 3-4 that I've ever seen in my life. But if you're the Chargers, there's too many good teams in this conference to start 2-4. There just is. And then on the other side, the Chiefs finally hitting their stride, right? Finally hitting their stride. Kelsey looks fantastic. Mahomes looks amazing. I do still wonder about their receivers. You would think at the deadline they would try to add one more guy. I like Sky Moore, and there's another kid that's name is escaping me. But they're going to need at least one more guy, right? You'd think. But the running game's been great. Mahomes is just Mahomes. And the Chiefs, once again, look unstoppable. Now, Dolphins, Eagles. Eagles 31, Dolphins 17. Now, I don't... So, a lot of people are talking about the Dolphins and the injuries on the offensive line. The Eagles had some pretty crazy injuries in their secondary, which they addressed, by the way, with a phenomenal trade. Can't remember the guy's name from Titans, but I know he's a great player. 2-time Pro Bowl. The name is escaping me. But Tua, blah, blah, blah. Tua lets go of the ball so quickly that the offensive line injuries haven't really mattered so far this year. And it's been around for most of the year. Tua, he's just that good. He gets the ball out very quickly. You got Tyreek Hill. When Waddle went down, it seemed like the offense was having a tough time. I gotta say, too, just a little side note, watching Tyreek Hill play, he is just incredible. Like, just outstanding. The speed, just watching, it's so fun watching him. Really, really fun game to watch. That defensive front on the Eagles really, really made up for the injuries in the secondary. And this was a game, if you're the Eagles, we talked about this with the Lions, right? You're 5-1, get smacked in the mouth. The Eagles 5-0. Not only do they smack themselves in the mouth, but that was one of the worst turnovers that I've seen Jalen Hurts throw ever. And overall, that Jets game, Hurts didn't actually play that poorly, but some of those decisions were awful. So if you're the Eagles, you come out a couple nights ago, and you take control of the game fairly quickly. Dolphins kind of creep back in, and you just decide, no, we're taking this game over. This ends now. And for me, that was an incredibly important game for the Eagles. I was nervous about this game strictly because of the secondary, and you have two of the fastest guys in the league. What the Eagles did to that running game, I mean, I know that the Dolphins have injuries on that line, but -8 rushing yards in the first half, I think 45 total. Just an incredible, incredible performance by that defense on the Eagles. And for the offense, listen, I love Devontae Smith. I love Dallas Goedert, both terrific players. Just get the ball to A.J. Brown. Ever since he got here, I've been saying this. Get the ball to A.J. Brown. 3rd and 8, get the ball to A.J. Brown. 4th and 3, get the ball. Just get the ball to A.J. Brown. The guy's phenomenal. 5 straight games, 125 yards plus. And what is so comforting about this win for the Eagles is still they don't look perfect. And I know that, no team's perfect, blah, 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 but they don't look like they're hitting their stride. They just don't. And so to be at a place where you beat the highest scoring offense in the NFL by 2 touchdowns and you still haven't played your best yet, that's some pretty good stuff right now. Now, this is where, we've talked about this before, this is where for the Eagles, this gets insane. You play the Commanders on Sunday, which I think will be a phenomenal game, should be fun. Then you get the bye. Then you get, and I don't remember the exact order, I know Dallas comes first, but in this next stretch, you got Dallas, Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, Dallas, Seahawks. And that is a gauntlet. So this is now where we see what this team, the 2023 version of this team, is all about. That's all I got for the NFL. I still think, Baltimore Chiefs, Eagles, Niners, I just think those are the 4 teams at the top here. I think Cincinnati's coming. They had the bye week. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what comes. So now that basketball is back, I will have another episode on the weekend where I will give my best bets for Sunday in the NFL. But Fridays. Now, in the NBA, you can tease basketball games. Not a lot of people like doing this, but I love a good tease. Love a good tease. I did this on the podcast that I used to have. If you're the one person who listened to it last fall, if you are that person, then you know I love a Friday night tease. It's back. The NBA is back, which means Friday night teases are back in my life, and I will share those with you on a Friday pod. Before we wrap up, really quickly, like I said, my buddy Tom and I are going to do an NBA preview, so I'll leave NBA talk out of it. The NHL, it is back. A couple quick thoughts. Number one, there is Vegas, there is Colorado, and there is everybody else. We are 2 weeks in. Neither of those two teams have lost. Vegas, they just look too big. They look too strong. You're already, I know it's only 7 games, but hey, a few more games and that's 10%. The season moves quick, man. Colorado, bit of a stumbling last year, had some injuries. I think they're back with an absolute vengeance. And if you're a team like Toronto, like Carolina, who I thought Carolina would come out like Colorado and Vegas has, they've kind of stumbled a little bit. But if you're Toronto, Carolina, Rangers, Devils, I think the Kings as well in Los Angeles, if you think that you're the creme de la creme, that you're up there with the big boys, there's 2 teams to compare yourself to. And that's Vegas and that's Colorado. And I'm really, really curious to see how that goes as the season goes on. Now, the 3 teams in the Eastern Conference that we are most kind of up and coming, at least in the Toronto market, we've been talking about them a lot as that next team to kind of take that next step. You have Detroit, you have Buffalo, and you have Ottawa. And Ottawa got thumped by Buffalo last night, but you know what? Buffalo's had an awful start to the season. Ottawa's been pretty decent, and Buffalo just needed that game last night. But it's the Detroit Red Wings. Now, it's been a big conversation here. A lot of people think that Detroit, before the season started, a lot of people thought Detroit wasn't quite ready to make that step, and that Buffalo and Ottawa was. Now, I felt that Ottawa and Detroit were both ready. I thought the pieces, like DeBrincat for Detroit, like the pieces that Detroit has placed on this team, I think this team is good. And I think they will be in the playoffs. Same with Ottawa. Buffalo, on the other hand, they got good players, man. Thompson, Skinner, Dahlin, Power. They got good players. They haven't made it to the playoffs in 12 years. Buffalo will not be a team that I buy stock in until they go to the playoff. Like, it's just every year, it's like Buffalo is this next team. And I'm just not seeing it right now. NHL Center Ice teams. If you have the NHL Center Ice package, it's fun to pick a couple teams that are not quite playoff teams, but not quite, not playoff teams, just kind of in between. For me this year, and just teams that I it's the same with basketball. I love to pick a couple teams that may or may not make it to the playoffs and just watch them and just see how they're going. Columbus is that team for me this year. They got some great young players, Fantilli to come in through the draft. I think this team could be good. I really do. I think if they make it to the playoffs, we're talking wild card. I don't think they're top 3 in their division. But Columbus and Detroit are the 2 teams that I'm going to be keeping my eyes on the most. The other 2, which are more fringe, but I still really want to watch them, Arizona, sneaky talented team, and St. Louis. St. Louis, to me, is too talented to be the team that they are, but their goaltending is a huge question mark. And we'll get more into the NHL. I just never did a full preview. Wanted to give you some quick thoughts. My last thought on the NHL. The Edmonton Oilers have gotten off to an awful, awful start. It's early, yes, but hear me out on this. Their defense has been so bad, and I know that they've been changing schemes and they've been trying to figure some other stuff out and trying to copy Vegas, defensive schemes from the playoffs last year. Like, Darnell Nurse last night looked awful. And I know McDavid's hurt, but you got to think, right now, they are 11 points behind Vegas for the division lead. Okay? 11. Now, again, I know it's early, but 11 points behind a really good team is hard to make up. It just is. The way that this playoff format is, and listen, for the Leafs, it's the same thing. And it's been hard for the Leafs because Boston's been shot. That's another team I forgot to mention. Boston. Boston's undefeated too. It really pays to win your division. If you get second or third place in your division and you got to play either the second or third place team, that's tough. That's tough. And if you're the Oilers, they've been talking a big game, right? The whole summer. Stanley Cup or bust, Stanley Cup or bust. It's time. Like, I have a hard time thinking if you don't win your division, I think it's a hard road this year. I think the Western Conference is a lot better than it has been. And I just think you're putting yourself in a really precarious position. Precarious? Is that the right word? I think so. All right. I'll get off my high horse for today. Thank you so much for joining me once again. I apologize for being a little bit absent over the last couple weeks, but I am back and excited to dive in. Got another podcast recording tonight, diving into the NBA. Leading into the weekend, we'll talk a bit more hockey, lots of betting, lots of now it's full swing gambling mode. It's the best time of year. God, I didn't even talk about baseball. Really disappointed that, listen, all credit to the Diamondbacks. They deserve to be there. They've had a phenomenal Cinderella run. Boring for me. It's just boring. Like the Philadelphia Phillies, the hype, the drama on that team, mostly good drama. It's really disappointing to see them let that slip away. But anyway, I digress. Thank you so much for listening to Sports Addict Live. You can get me at Sport Addict Mark on Twitter. Sport Addict Mark. YouTube, Spotify, watch, listen. You can watch on Spotify as well. Once again, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. I will be back on tomorrow, I guess Friday. Have a listen. Until then, get hooked.